What did the last 3 years of portal hauls for the Badgers football team tell us about what we should expect from this year's class? Are there lessons to be learned there that we're already forgetting?
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And thank you for being here. Thank you for being everydayer. Thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you for everything that you do to make it more enjoyable to be a Badgers fan. Today's episode, we are talking about what kind of hit rate should we expect from this year's portal class. Let's go back in the past and let's get some type of idea, because if you don't learn from the past, you're probably going to be surprised again in the future. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, just bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets today. I'm Roast Ryan Herrings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. And thank you for helping us get there. And thank you for being an everydayer. Okay, here's what we're going to do this episode. I went back and I looked at every player the Badgers, this current staff, has brought in over the last 3 portal cycles. It's about 50 players. I say about because I didn't include specialists in here, and I think I got everybody. But it's about 50 players over the last 3 years. I went and I broke those players out into categories of home runs. Like, these guys were total home run gets in the portal. Good players, solid players, really nice job in the portal. Category for just, they're fine. A guy that came in and was fine. Category for underwhelming, and then a category for just straight misses. And what I want to do out of this exercise is, let's build some expectations for this year's class, because over the last 3 years, this is the percentage of players they brought into the portal that were just misses. This is the percentage that were fine, and these are the percentage that were home runs. Can we take those numbers, push them to this year's class, and get an idea of what maybe to expect? It's not perfect. I do think they spent more money this year, which should, in theory, get you a higher quality of player. But it is, I think at times, we get very excited about every player coming in and how they're going to solve this problem and that problem. And I do that. I'm guilty of that. But a lot of them are just misses. And we need to be careful getting too excited about every portal player, right? So let's get into it. I'm going to give you my home run hits first. I'm going to go through my lists of categories. I would love for you guys to tell me, no, I don't agree. I think you're off on this portal guy, whatever it is. I'm going to give you my home run hits over the last 3 years. I only have 3. So out of 50 players that the Badgers brought in, I think there were only 3 home runs in the portal. That gives you 6%. Okay. My home runs last 3 years, Mason Reiger this year, that's a home run. Home run get. Knocked it out of the park. My goodness, was he good. I wish we could have another year. Could he petition for a 6th year? You're seeing all these other players going out after the NCAA and suing for another year of eligibility. Could we please get another year of Mason Reiger? He was a home run. Absolute, without a doubt. 23 class, I have Will Pauling as a home run get in the portal. Maybe his last year in Madison wasn't great, but the dude had 9 touchdowns over 2 years, 74 receptions his first year. I think that's a home run slot addition. I would kill for a Will Pauling on this roster right now. And my 3rd home run hit was Elijah Hills in 24. Some of this is based a little bit on what their expectations were coming in. I think that's fair. But I think Elijah Hills, a guy that didn't receive a ton of fanfare, he was really one of the only disruptive pieces on that 24 defense. I thought that was a home run get in the portal. So 3 out of 50 to me are home run gets. Okay, let's move to the good. These are the players, and please, in the chat, in the comments, disagreements are great. And the best thing about being a sports fan is having these discussions. So tell me if you think I'm too high or too low on any of these players. These are the players over the last 3 years that I think were good gets in the portal. Okay. Tanner Mordecai in the 23 class. I think he's a good get. I know at times it maybe felt a little underwhelming. I think that whole offense was dealing with Phil Longo shock. I think that whole offense was dealing with offensive line issues and continuity issues. I think Mordecai was a good get in the portal. I have him in the good category. If he hadn't got hurt, I think we win another game or 2 that year. Mordecai's good to me. Joe Huber in that 23 class. Really good player, man. Really good player. Versatile. Could play a couple different spots. Tough, was always healthy. To me, Huber is easily a good. I think you can make an argument that Huber's a home run for his expectations coming in, for what he was able to do with the Badgers. I think he's easily in the good category. I have Nizer Forkran in the good category. I really like him. I think he was the best cornerback on the 24 team. Really good player there. I have JVR Suggs, who I thought really balled out this year. JVR Suggs, that's a good pickup in the portal. I thought he balled out this year. Matt Young, I have in the good category. Matt Young got better and better as the year went on. I think that's a really nice pickup for the Badgers this season. I think he's going to factor into this defense going forward. I think he's a little miscast last year. I would like him in the box more, but I think Matt Young is very, very good. Deone Hill, I have in the good category. Really physical corner, handsy, a little handsy, but dude would come up and pop you. Played a ton of snaps this year. Gamir Latimer, I have the good category as well. Another guy kind of like Hill, played a lot of snaps. And then Brandon Lane is my last player I have in the good category of portal pickups. Brandon Lane, I thought, balled out this year. Tough. Really a big part of that run defense. Didn't play a ton last year, but I think that's a good pickup. So I know I throw a lot of names at you, but that's 9 out of 50 players that I have in the good category. That's 18% of the portal pickups over the last 3 years. Okay, if you add that into what I consider the home runs, which I think the home runs in the last 3 years in the portal class, I think there's only 3 out of 50. Okay, I think it's Riger, I think it's Elijah Hills, and I think it's Vinny Anthony. So between what I would consider the good category and the home runs, that's 9 out of 50. Okay, you're talking about 24%-ish. Everything else I have is kind of fine or below over the last 3 years. It's interesting. Now, I will say this. Players that were hurt, I just put them into the miss category. So a guy like Tyler Van Dyke, a guy like Billy Edwards, is that fair? Probably not, but I didn't want to like nuke this list out and make it overly complicated. If they're healthy, they're probably both in the good category, right? So that's very fair to point out. I'm not really providing a lot of grace for injuries on this list just because I thought it would make it too convoluted. But it is a little harrowing, right? When you consider how big this year's portal class is and how much they're counting on it, if you look back at the last 3 classes, and again, we could quibble over names for sure. I'm going to get into my fine category. Maybe you guys think I'm too hard on some of these players, but when you go back and look over the last 3 years, only about 25, 26, maybe 30% of the players, I think realistically you would look at and say, well, that was a really good pickup and it really helped us. Now, there are still some players on these lists over the last 3 years that are still playing in Madison that could raise their stock and their grade for sure. That's also fair to point out. But there haven't been a lot of home runs. So you're hoping that, the staff has gotten better at evaluating talent, at finding talent, and I think they've definitely got better logistically. They've moved quicker. You're also hoping that the added resources are a real testament to, or they're a real boon to their ability to bring in the type of talent they need to. But they're going to have to hit more. They're going to have to hit on more guys, because if they hit on 25% of this class, 30% of this class, 40% of this class, I don't think it's going to be good enough to push this Badgers team where it needs to go. This needs to be their best portal haul. It has to be their highest hit rate. It's got to bring in the most stars. This has to be their best version of what they do in the portal. I want to take a quick second for our friends of the show. We're going to come back, talk about the players that I consider kind of in the middle of this group and open to any disagreements on any of them, and the players that I think were just misses. That's coming up next. Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show, and a quick second to say thank you for tuning in to Locked On Badgers.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Number 1 ranked UConn dominated Tennessee 96-66, turning a halftime tie into a historic win and avenging last season's loss by delivering the largest margin in the rivalry's history. AZ Fudd had 27 points and Sarah Strong added 26 as the Huskies remain perfect on the season, reminding everyone why they are the reigning national champions. In the Big Ten, number 2 UCLA rolled past number 8 Iowa 88-65, powered by 22 points from Angela Dukelich and a huge advantage in the paint, staking their claim as a national threat. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
All right, let's come back into this with my fine category. So we've done what I consider the home runs. We've done what I consider the really good gets. These are the players I consider. I would look at it and say, I think it's fine. I think based on expectations, and again, some of this is based on expectations coming in. There was a different set of expectations for, let's say, a Nick Evers coming into the program than there was for a Hunter Simmons. Okay. So some of this is based on expectations. Let's go into my fine category. I have Braden Locke. Curious where everyone is on Braden Locke retroactively. I think he was fine. He was brought in not necessarily to be the starter. He was a 4-star kid, but I think Evers was a higher pedigree player, and Locke comes in, ends up with I think it was an 18 to 11 touchdown interception ratio, won a couple games. He was what I considered a solid backup quarterback. Not great. I would put Braden Locke in the fine category. He was fine. Quarterback depth. I don't think you want him as your starter, but he did come in and he did help right the ship at moments. There was that incredible Locktober, right? He was fine. Braden Locke is fine. Turin Lowe says Locke was supposed to be the high floor guy. I don't know if he was even really that. And if you want to make an argument that you would put him in the underwhelming category, I would not push back too heavily on that. I think he was fine, but I could see up or down on that. Bryson Green, I have as just in the fine category. If you go back and look at him, I expected more, but he had quarterback issues. He was mildly productive. I have him in the fine category. Tyree Walker, fine. I think running backs are relatively easy to find, and it's not a positional need necessarily. I thought he was good here, but I expected more. I have Tyree Walker in the fine category. Danny O'Neal, to me, absolutely in the fine category. Again, brought in to be a backup, helped right the ship a little bit. He just got the crap beat out of him. Like that was not a fair, and not to say he was perfect by any stretch, but that was not a fair evaluation of Danny O'Neal as a quarterback. Behind a ragtag offensive line, getting yanked around against the toughest schedule in the country, with an inability to run the ball. It was not great. That being said, I can't put him anywhere above fine. Like, he was fine. Fine for a backup quarterback. I still, like, my heart still goes out to him thinking about that last run where he got hurt. He was finally getting his chance, and the offensive line was starting to gel, and then he goes down with an injury. It just sucks. But I'm in the fine category. Lance Mason, fine. Again, like, this is just kind of a category where I think they were solid. I think Lance Mason in a better offense with a better quarterback, with something that made sense and a healthy offensive line, I think Mason would have been a really good pickup. I think it was a good pickup, but he also dropped a couple passes and probably wasn't quite as physical as we needed. I have him in the fine category. Parker Peterson and Corey Walker, kind of similarly, they gave you reps, they gave you depth this year. Fine. So that's my fine category, 7 out of 50. Everybody let me know if you disagree with any of these. Then let's get into underwhelming. Some of these names are going to be blasts from the past. Ryan Zimmerman said Bryson Green would be so useful in this year's roster. Yeah, I think Bryson Green, we didn't see the full package here. I think he could have been better. But I also think some of this is on receivers. It's on everybody. There's been drops and route inconsistencies from receivers too. When was the last play? And I'm sure there's been a couple in the last 3 years that I'm blanking on. But how many times in the last 3 years can you remember seeing a receiver just maul a DB and rip a ball out of their hands and make a really spectacular receiver play? We talk so much about the quarterbacks and the offensive line and Phil Longo, and all of that's valid. But man, sometimes you just got to moss a dude, right? Sometimes you just got to rip the ball out of somebody's hands, break a tackle. We've seen Vinny do it. We saw Vinny get a double move against USC. He had a double move against Bama, return to kick. Some of these other receivers got to be playmakers, right? And we haven't seen enough of that. Okay, I'm going to quickly go through this underwhelming list. I'll probably highlight a couple players. Again, the main point of this is try to get an idea of the hit rate with the staff over the last several years of portal additions and how that could kind of move forward to this year's additions. So here's my underwhelming list. Okay, so we've gone home run, we've gone good, we've gone fine. Here are my underwhelming players in the last 3 years in the portal. CJ Williams, he caught about a ball a game from a 4-star player. Needed more from him. Jake Renfro, gosh, again, this is partially based on expectations, but we just needed a stalwart center, and he has been able to get healthy. I thought he was inconsistent play last year. Renfro here. Jeff Petroyski, Who remembers that name? Brought in to be an outside linebacker, edge depth from Michigan State. Gave you some depth reps for sure. Might have even started a game or two that year. I'm trying to remember, but it was just kind of meh. I thought he was underwhelming. Jason Maitre, cornerback. Jackson McGowan, I have in this category for now. That's a player that could elevate, right? Some of these players still have eligibility left. Tyrell Henry, I think he's been fine. Special teams versatility. The staff likes him. I think he could play in the slot this year, but from a receiver standpoint, we haven't really seen much. Tackett Curtis. Oh, my recruiting crush from several years ago. My goodness, man. I mean, you could put him in the miss category, really, but he played a lot of reps. Like he gave you reps. Just didn't work. He just doesn't have the fluidity. He feels like a guy that would fit better in like 1993, where he's playing in the box. He's just coming downhill. He was just a liability in coverage and in space. Yeah, Tackett Curtis definitely in my underwhelming list. Leon Lowry. Gosh, man. Leon Lowry. Jaheim Thomas. A couple big-time linebacker gets in the 24 class that a lot of people felt really good about. Thomas, Lowry, they were going to kind of solidify that middle part of the defense and the edges and provide some pass rush, and they just didn't play well. And some of that was probably on coaching staff, and some of that was trying to find the right pieces. It's never all one player's fault or one coach's fault, but I would have both of those players in the underwhelming list. RJ Delancey, Hunter Simmons, and then Jaden Ballard. We have a Turin Low down here as well. Says Ballard was supposed to, I think maybe Turin was saying Ballard was supposed to do something or play harder or make plays. Oh, yeah, no, this is probably in relation, into the comment of who is going to be the big play guy that can make plays. Ballard didn't do that this year. To me, Ballard is absolutely in this underwhelming category. And I know there were moments he was open. 100%. I know that. I know we saw it on film. But there were also other moments where 50-50 balls went up to Ballard, and I just expected more from a player with his physical skill set. So he's in my underwhelming list as well. That's 36%. That's 18 out of 50. Okay. Out of the last 50 portal players coming in, I have 18 in this underwhelming category. That's 36%. That's a big chunk. That chunk can't be that big this year. And I'm very open to, maybe I'm too hard on some of these players. Maybe I'm not hard enough on some of them. Ryan Zimmerman says, did Jeff Petroyski play? That is a name I haven't heard in a while. He did play. Just didn't play a lot. Badger, 2000. Hard to forgive Locke for that Penn State pick 6. Dude, I know. I was at the game. We had a Locked On meetup that day. I was in the end zone looking on. I had a great view. I had the same view of that Penn State defense that Braden Locke did. I mean, I had a little higher view, but my heart sank in that moment. Absolutely sank. Hayden does say if we had Grimes with Tanner, we win 2 or 3 more games that year. Yeah, I think Tanner was a good quarterback. I think Tanner was a good quarterback. All right, let's take a break here. We're going to get back into what I would consider the flat-out misses. Just the straight, complete swing and a miss strikeouts in the portal. We're going to do that next on Locked On Badgers and kind of take a look at the numbers, take a look at how it could apply to this year's class, and then are our expectations too high based on past history? We're going to do that next, Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show. It is coming up on a season that a lot of people get stressed out about, but you don't need to get stressed out about because we got TurboTax here. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. Let Netflix take over your life. Let marathoning take over your life, not mine. I've run a marathon once in my life. I did not finish. I got picked up like halfway through. They put me in the back of a U-Haul like I was coming back from a war zone. It was terrible. I couldn't walk for like 3 days. It was horrific. It was horrific. But my point is, if you want to be a marathoner, let marathoning take over your life, but don't let taxes do it. TurboTax is here to help make sure taxes don't take over your life. You can just hand off your taxes and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a TurboTax expert in person. You can connect online, and they'll handle everything. Like, let's go. I mean, what more could you possibly want? From the W-2s to the self-employed forms, they work on getting you every deduction. It's a huge time saver. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local. That's massive. TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, you just got to file by February 28th. Easy. Take taxes off your plate. Get back to your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Today's episode also brought to you by our great friends over at FanDuel and community. We have been through this whole football season together, college and NFL. This is the last call. This is it. You got one more chance, one last kickoff, one more NFL game before the season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60. This is the big one. FanDuel's making sure you're right in the middle of it, just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding the underdog, or just building that one last single game parlay, this is where predictions turn into plays. Stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels a little bit bigger. If you're a new customer, welcome. Bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, let's come back into this. This was kind of a sad list to put together too, because I remember some of these players, and I'll just give you a couple I was completely wrong on. Well, let's finish the big swings and misses here. These are the guys that, not all on them. It's never all on one player. But these are the guys that I would say, just for whatever, and sometimes it is on the player, to be clear, but sometimes it's coaching, sometimes it's scheme, sometimes it's injury, sometimes it is the player, sometimes it's effort. These are the players that I think were just swings and misses in the portal. Quincy Burrows, do you guys remember him? I remember, so this was a yoked up, athletic, 6'2", 6'3", boundary receiver. They brought him in from Cincinnati. I remember when he did the show, I'm like, Quincy from Cincy. It was a great tagline. And then it just never came together. He looked the part, nothing. It just never came together. Michael Mack, the Air Force corner, that really wasn't on him, right? They just couldn't get him through the NCAA randomness of clearing him for eligibility in Air Force. But ultimately, it was a player that you invested resources in, that you got to commit, that never really played for you. So that's a miss. Nick Evers, the 4-star quarterback from Oklahoma. I saw the warning signs pretty quick with him. I'm going to be honest. When he came in and he was behind, I think he was behind Colacrue, and Colacrue and Braden Locke, and it just seemed like he wasn't picking up the playbook. That it just seemed like Phil Longo didn't like him. Like, it wasn't a fit. 4-star kid, athletic, ended up going to UConn. Complete swing and miss. Joseph Griffin Jr., the 4-star receiver from Boston College. I think they were, they certainly believe in the size, certainly believe in the 4-star pedigree, but nothing clicked there. These two aren't really fair, but again, I didn't filter out for injuries. Tyler Van Dyke and Billy Edwards, complete misses. Injuries. Now, so I'll say this, part of the process in recruiting, part of the process in portal is checking medicals, making sure you have clean bills of health. Both those players were players that had a bit of a history of injury. I don't think the Badgers are at fault there. I don't think the players are at fault there. But ultimately, the job is to get on the field and throw touchdowns, and neither did. Those are both misses in the portal. Leighton Nelson, Joey Okla, Dekel Crowdis, the speedy kid from, I think it was Hawaii, right? That dude could burn, but he's tiny for an offense that he's a kid, Dekel Crowdis, where if you had a big arm quarterback and you could throw some play action, it might make some sense, but the offense was broken last year, so the receiver didn't work. Let's talk about Mark Hamper. You guys remember how much fun that one was? The exciting boundary receiver who came and went like a thief in the night. And then Tanner Koziel, another solid, like that dude was here. I think I went to more practices than Tanner Koziel did. It's a bummer. He's really talented. They could have used him. Then Tarian Turner, the linebacker this year. So to me, that's 12 out of 50 that I think were just misses, whether it's injury, player-related, coaching-related, scheme-related, developmental-related, whatever it is, right? A lot of reasons. And typically it's a combination of all of them. When something doesn't work, it's very rarely 100% one thing. It's a combination, but the end result is those players didn't work. So you combine those two, the bad and the underwhelming categories, that's 60% of the last 3 years portal haul. That's a big number. 60%. And again, feel free to quibble with maybe you would move some players up, down, whatever. Maybe it's not 60% on your list. Maybe it's 50%. Maybe it's 40%. I think ultimately the end result is that's a really big number of portal players that came in and I think either underwhelmed or were complete misses. Complete whiffs, misses. Darian Varner. I forgot to put his name in here. Or I forgot to say his name. That's another one that's in the complete miss. If you guys remember Darian Varner, the Temple defensive end, kind of edge player, the staff has to be better this year. Like this has to be, you're going to miss some because you're not perfect. You're not Nostradamus. You're not going to hit 100% on almost anything in life, right? But this number's got to be higher, not just this year, but going forward. And I think some of this deals with logistics. Some of this deals with alignment in the front office, which I think the Badgers have done a better job of now. I think they are more aligned. They understand what they're looking for. Work on this portal class started months before the portal opened. So I do think they're in a better spot to bump up their hit rate. Money and resources matter. That's the other part of this. Spending more money gets you in on more players that you want to be in on. That is a big, big deal. And we had that comment from somebody in here. Let me throw it up. If I can find it. Yeah, here we go. Badger. Money makes a difference here. And our fandom is due a better hit rate. I agree there too. So hopefully that was a fun trip down memory lane for y'all. Hopefully that was really, really exciting to go back through the last 3 years of the portal. But I do want to just point out that this is not something that probably should be relied on to turn over the roster consistently. Let's see. Dan says this is unfair, but the opposition also dictates who ends up as a hit or miss. Yeah, listen, I agree. Like this is not, I would not present this in like a university for, rigor. This is something that I put together to kind of quickly get an idea of what buckets I would put the hit rates on for portal players. If I was really taking a deep dive on this, I would factor out injuries and those kind of things. But I don't think any way you slice it, if this year's class looks like this type of breakdown where 60% of them maybe aren't hits, this team is not going to be as good as we think it's going to be, right? This is a team that needs 8 starters from the portal minimum, maybe 12 starters from the portal and a couple stars. So that means you got to hit on a higher rate. You just have to than you've been hitting on. Turin says, what is the Big Ten standard portal success rate? Batting 50% of productive portal transfers seems high. Yeah, I have no idea what the average success rate is. I would tend to think it's probably very reflective in the budgets that teams have, right? So the better teams probably have a higher hit rate because they have more money, more resources. I think that's probably similar, and that's what you're hoping if you're a Badger fan. The more money that has come into this program, the better chance some of these recruits hit, the less misses you should have, right? I mean, that's how it should work. If you're given more resources, you should have a better product and better results out of it. But yeah, it's a great question. I don't actually know what the success rate is because that's a very nebulous term, right? It's a very vague term. Okay. We're going to wrap it up there on Wisconsin. Really do appreciate all you guys, as always, for tuning in, for watching the show, for being a part of the community. We will definitely come back to you tomorrow. We got Coach Anderson coming up tomorrow. I think we'll have Payne Blasevich from 247 coming up. I think we'll have John McNamara from 247. I think we have Coach Lofton, Jaden's dad, coming up. A lot of really good guests coming up. So a lot of fun content. I'm losing my voice, so I'm going to cut this just a minute or two early. But on Wisconsin, as always, appreciate you guys, and we will definitely talk to you tomorrow.